zone, everybody taking dog tags. Dog, this is awesome, it's Optimus Prime and your quadrant and talking to you, got that? I was in a mind when I crafted this. The dungeon master's wrath with a dash of sick. I dash like Sonic Mad, not a pacifist, but pacifist to tracks when I'm rapping, kids. We the last of us, the master race. Take him with a master hand, it's cancerous. I hit him with the master sword, and sure I make an eyesore, but I wonder how 4 guys make a Triforce.
Hey guys, you're listening to the Trinity Force podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell. This is episode number 140. You guys are out there in listener land, ready for us to talk about PBE changes and listener questions. I'm joined by a great group of guys this week.
Howdy.
A group great of goes.
Talk about a tongue twister. Seashells fly the seashore.
You normally get it. Like, you normally roll it off there without a problem.
I do a lot of things, but tonight is not one of those days where do you see? Like,
tonight is not one of those things that you do?
Yeah, I'm pretty much done already.
Where's your beer?
My beer is in a koozie.
Raise your beers.
That's fine. Yeah, raise your beers. Now just drink your beer.
Miller Lite, baby. So I hope everybody out there has had a great week or a great start to the week. It is Monday, after all, Monday night. You guys are listening to this on Wednesday if you're doing the MP3. Don't forget, we have an Audible trial out there if you guys would like to support the podcast. You can go to audibletrial.com/TForce podcast. You get 30 days for free and 1 audiobook for you guys to listen to when when the podcasts aren't available, when the other podcasts aren't. So the LCS T-Force Rundown is also available on iTunes, and so is the Oz LOL podcast. So go ahead, guys, and check those out when you get a free moment.
They're good stuff. Oz LOL. Go listen to the Aussies.
That's right.
And their sweet, sweet voices.
I saw some reviews that said once you get around their accents, they're pretty good. Like, that was the review.
I think that the accent's like half the draw. Come on. It's
yeah,
great.
like every time Lee's on the show with us, I'm like, shit, I should just go somewhere else because this guy's voice is so, like, just controlling, captivating.
Well, that's pretty much how I feel about anybody on the podcast except for you, Tom.
Well, yeah, but the other guys don't embarrass me.
Oh,
what do you
I would
get
around
you
those
accents?
So yeah, there's the T-Force LCS Rundown. That's live every Sunday. Oz LOL is starting to go live here shortly. I'll give you guys a day and a copy when I find more about that. Speaking of donating to the podcast or helping the podcast out, Mott Nagorum, he donated $25 last week, better known as the host of the LCS Trinity Force podcast or Rundown, however you want to call it. It's a night, dude. It's a night. They get it. So thanks, Tom, for donating $25 to us. We appreciate
love you, baby.
that. We're going to use that, turn
Hell
that
yeah,
back
Tom.
around
Thank you.
for cameras for everybody.
Yay.
So if you guys would like to donate, there is a donate button on the bottom of the stream right now. Go down there, click the donate button, send us money. We'll read your name off. You can also go on trinityforcepodcast.com and do that. So,
man, that thing's way down there.
Mm-hmm. Sure is, isn't it? It's because I made it 4. There's like 4 individual cells. So if you actually have a big monitor, you can see the 4 cells.
I just never have it maximized.
Gotcha. Well, that is it for news. I kept news under 5 minutes this time, which is brand new for me. So let's get into some PBE discussion. I'm hoping all the guys can carry the podcast this week because Dom's back. Dom's back is nice and strong and ready to go.
Actually, before we talk about PBE, do we want to discuss Vel'koz? Has anybody played him enough?
Yes. I have played him.
I was wondering.
I
He's like, I played him briefly, and I thought this guy seems like someone DeClaude will like.
Oh, yes. Vel'koz is awesome. Not only is he all skill shots, he's all AoE skill shots, and he looks friggin' badass. I mean,
He
he's
looks
just...
like Shuma Gorath.
Battlecast...
He does! What he
Vel'koz,
does.
He looks like an Eye of the Beholder for those Dungeons and Dragons fans out there, or he looks like a Sentinel from the Matrix in his Battlecast Vel'koz skin. He just looks awesome. He's got these 3 tentacles. He sounds awesome. He says that he finds their elbows obscene, which is hilarious in itself. And Eric Brock voiced his voiceover. So,
oh, really? That's great.
Yep. And he does an excellent job. So it's I love his abilities. That his Q, which is that I forget what it's called, plasma fission, something like that. It shoots out a skill shot, pretty good distance too. On the end where it hits, it breaks out in 90-degree perpendicular line both ways. So
it makes a giant
yeah,
T.
you can do some cool stuff with that.
Yeah,
There's
you
some
can
crazy angled
you can launch
skill
it early,
shots.
and it doesn't have that big of a hitbox. So I've crept it through minions, through the front and back line of minions to hit a champion with it. So it's pretty awesome. His ultimate too, just the sound and the visual of it when it hits, it's like, oh, I'm just this little tentacle guy, blah blah blah. You're beating up on me, bleh, I puke on you and you die, and then just awesome. So
Found his.
I had a lot of fun with him, and it's satisfying when you hit his whole kit, when you can do a dump on somebody or just sneak in a shot with that 90-degree blast in the fog of war.
They call us take dump on kids, apparently.
I'd love to take dump on kids, and and that was singular. But
I didn't actually get a chance
But
to
he's
do a
fun.
lot of research on Vel'koz. I've just been pretty busy with work and that type of stuff, and that's normally when I would want to do League of Legends related research and that type of thing. So I didn't really know anything about his kit going into it. What I found most interesting was the way his W worked, and specifically because you get 2 stacks of it. It's on a longish cooldown, but that it cools down and then you just get a
12
second stack of
seconds,
it.
I think.
Yeah, I
Something
mean,
like
it's
that. To get
longer.
per stack, 15 seconds per stack or something. Because
Yeah.
there's like 2 stacks on it you can cast, or 2 casts.
yeah, it's got like a little like half-second global cool if you have the 2 charges in there. But
It's 2 second. It's a 2-second global cool.
really, while you're playing him and doing your abilities, you don't really notice the cooldown on that too much. It stacks up while you're harassing with your Q, and then all of a sudden you got your 2 to use when you want to dump your E so that they stay. The E knocks them back a second, and that gives you just enough time to land both procs of your W. So it's the problem with the W. It's a little tricky. It shoots out in a line. It's not like the line just appears and does damage. It shoots outwards. So I've had it where someone jumped in over. I would shoot the line, but they jump over it, and it wouldn't hit them.
Oh,
So
it hits them
it's
on
a
the
little
second
tricky.
wave, though, right?
If they're standing in it, yeah.
If there's,
Yeah.
But usually by then I'm backing away, kiting, running, and I miss them completely with it. So it's a little tricky. You
Okay.
got to get the hang of that. So your Q does slow when it hits, and the W on the second proc is it a slow? It's a slow. It's not a stun.
No, Q is a slow. E is
Q is a slow.
back.
E's a knockback, and a W when it hits again. I think it applies a slow. You know what? I should probably look this up. But anyway, regardless, tons of AoE, tons of damage.
He
It does have a lot of damage.
he does a lot of damage even when he doesn't, even like when he's behind, like just without many items. I've noticed that he kind of stays relevant for the most part throughout the game, even when he's down, which was
True
interesting.
damage, really.
Yeah,
The true damage makes up for it, but
Right.
see,
This is passive.
I've heard some people talk about him playing support. I brought that up this weekend. Like, could he, in the right scenario, being like you're not playing against a hyper aggressive support, or you need a poke support, kind of like a Karma, but you don't want to pick Karma for the team for whatever reason. I don't know why you wouldn't, but maybe you want more poke and lane. That he could potentially be a support because he has a lot of built-in utility in his kit, and his mana costs are really low, and the cooldowns are, especially with utility masteries, his cooldowns are fairly low. You start with 10-15%,
Yeah,
And
they are
if-
pretty good.
With that in mind, I wouldn't play him support because his damage is too high, but I think it could work when the scenario lines itself up again, and that's when you
When
need
the
that play
planets
champion.
align.
Right. It's
Yeah.
I'm trying to be a little bit more descriptive about when you might want to play him, but it's hard to pick him over someone like Karma, who brings more utility to the team, because really
Right.
his utility is in CC.
I like him just as a mid nuker. He plays similar to Ziggs in that all of his abilities are skill shots. Excuse me, and they're all AoE. And by the way, to clarify what I said before, the W doesn't do any kind of crowd control. It's just damage, pure damage. So
I like him because he has a you can change up. It's basically a rumble alt. You can move, and it's a nightmare in corridors. I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of fights get turned around in jungle corridors just because of the enemy team super ahead, but they position poorly, and then they all get caught by his
Now,
alt die.
rank 1 is 500 base damage and then plus a modifier in your AP. So that's pretty sick.
Right.
Up to. Now that's the problem is you have to channel it for its full duration to get the full effect, but it's
also
the full effect is
stacking
devastating.
every 0.5 seconds. It's stacking a piece of his
Passive.
passive.
So you can get it procs the passive itself during it once. And
He's a
then you
void
throw
ray
another
from
ability afterwards,
StarCraft.
you
Yeah,
proc
he
it.
really does look like
I've
a
been-
void
I've
ray.
been-
He throws
I've
all
been
his
saying
tentacles
this.
forward and it shoots right out. Yeah.
It's a void ray
Yep.
from StarCraft.
So barrier is a better choice on him than ignite. I've found because while you're ulting, you want to give yourself
Yeah.
a little extra life to
Right.
survive
That
those ult-ins.
was one of the first things Adam was guessing would be the case when we were talking about him. Friday?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Well, I was thinking more of his skills are so long range that you're not really using auto attacks in lane all that often. because
You're never gonna get close enough to pop Ignite.
And yeah, that's exactly it. You never get close enough to pop Ignite, so he kind of runs in like a Nidalee Ziggs type of thing there, where even teleport could be really good on him if you don't expect yourself to get all in really quickly. Now, it's really interesting that Riot released this champion after we had just got done talking about champions having lots of escapes and lots of mobility, and now he has none. Yet,
but he does have that little knockback, which is his escape.
Feels slow too. Like there were just a lot of times where I felt like, despite my best efforts, I just couldn't stay in range of anything. Like he just feels slow, and it kind of like it's not easy to get movement speed on him and everything. You can bandage it through runes and masteries, but like getting Lich Bane on him is you're not really making use of a good 25% of that item's utility.
Right.
What that Lich Bane though, we'll talk about Lich Bane and the PvE changes, but Lich Bane as it stands right now is made for that one big burst, and that's why it really worked well in Twisted Fate, because you got that extra burst in your combo. And his range is so long, and he has to quickly cast spells that you don't really have time to intertwine.
No, that's what I'm saying is you won't be able to get that passive proc off. So it's really like your only movement speed option is Lich Bane, but it's not a good item for him in my estimation. I mean, it's a good item on every AP champion to a degree, but it's not great for him.
You just build massive AP items. Don't worry about the movement speed. Do what you can. You got really good range to harass, and you can dump his abilities really quickly, really fast. I mean, there's no other than W again. You know, they have that little global delay between the charges, but other than that, you can just dump everything on top of each other. And what's really interesting is you get a comp like the old Curse of the Sad Bullet Time. Curse of the Sad Disintegration Ray. You know, you lock someone down and then you just blast them with that ray. Imagine an MFADC in that. Bullet time and that. I can see Wombos coming out of this pretty good as long as you don't let them CC.
When he said this is a better brand.
It is.
Oh yeah, you and I were
That's
talking.
a good point.
Yeah, he's a
It
better
doesn't
brand.
rack them, but his cooldowns and the way he uses abilities, it seems like he's less useless in between using his abilities.
Right, because his W can be spammed twice, so he has a chance to
exactly.
pick it up.
He's got that extra.
He reminds me of the old Xerath without having to put himself like stationary while he does damage.
I'm sure.
His
that's
true, but I mean that like his ult's on a different level than old Xerath. So.
Fair enough.
But he has like that same idea of like long range artillery kind of champion. He feels like that, at least to me.
I think DeClaude hit it on the head. He feels like a really good AoE comp champion, and
the skill
with the speculation we've had going that the top lane meta is going to shift a little bit away from the just the super tanky champion, more towards bruisers, hyper carries, that type of thing. That likely means the jungle is going to shift more towards the tanky initiating types, and we could see a return of like full on AoE comp type champions.
We'll see.
I mean, like I don't want to say he could. I mean, like as a top laner, I think I almost like him in theory there because his mana cost really he doesn't feel like he has mana issues, but from a meta standpoint, he would just get punished because of his lack of mobility.
Right.
Like he'd get destroyed.
Yeah.
In theory, he works there, but like in practice.
Well, when you look at somebody, people are going to bring up Ryze right now and say Ryze is top lane champion, but Ryze can build defensively and still do damage, and Vel'koz can't build defensively and still do damage. There's nothing.
I don't know. 5 rods of ages.
If you get ahead enough, maybe.
I tried to build the Archangel Staff on him one game, and it just felt dirty because I didn't need the mana from the tier because his mana costs are really nominal. So it's like, do I really need this? But I want that little extra shield for when I'm ulting. But
like I think that's what they're going to end up hitting. I mean, that like people have brought up support Vel'koz, and my gut response is to say no because you're wasting so much damage potential. But there's the true damage in there, and the fact is like his early mana costs and his mana regen, like everything feels nice and comfortable, and it's very difficult to you have to work to just blow your entire mana pool, and that is something that like is appealing for support champions.
And you can kind of set up a game
with
his E. You're right about that. You get a slow with the Q, you get a little bit of a disruption with the E. It might work. He hasn't been out that long.
Like the flip side is he's totally going to get murdered by even Annie in the current state of the game. Annie.
Oh yeah.
I had a
Leona,
cat,
Thresh. They're just
actually.
like they're gonna work him.
I had a cat that was
Morgana's
actually
a better
working me
pick,
pretty
that's for
well at one. I played it into her, and it was because she always had the threat of blowing me up because of how squishy I was. Couldn't you can't really bandage extra magic resist. I mean, I was running your normal page, your 21-9 with defensive masteries or whatever the glyphs. But every time she jumped in, she got enough burst off in before the delay on E would go off to knock her out of her ult. Like I had to try to preemptively hit it. And either I wasn't fast enough or the delay is too long. I mean, you can give both there. But she can still pretty much blow me up. So I think he's going to have trouble with any champions that have gap closers and lots of poke damage. But
Yeah.
And
we keep you up, Sean?
just
I'm
to
yawning,
just to quick
man.
mention it, his base HP is actually really low. Compared it's in the lower part of the game. Like his base HP is the same as Sona's. Just to give people some perspective on that. And
it doesn't
champions
really scale super hard either, does it? Because I always felt like I had not a lot of HP.
oh god, his HP scaling is also among the lowest.
Yeah, so it's just how it
I'm not
felt.
surprised
like, I
by
didn't
that.
look, but I could tell that like I didn't have a lot of HP throughout the game. And when somebody, like when I said Cat got on me, she's gonna get 1 or 2 swings of her ult off before I can get her out of it. And couple that with the extra damage that she's doing with her bouncing blades, yada yada.
Unless you can predict it.
I mean, and champs like Sona and Nami both also really have low base HP and HP growth, but they have heals that they're bringing to the table, which like totally warps how that entire thing plays out and makes them work reasonably well from a longevity standpoint. And Vel'koz is not gonna like even if you
Right.
start Doran's shield or whatever, you're not gonna regenerate health the same way that Sona and Nami can. So.
Yeah,
I guess I could see it in a really weirdly specific case, but you definitely don't want to like first pick Vel'koz support because you'll run into like a
Right.
Leona or something and you will die.
Sure, we need
It's a
lot.
fun pick. You know?
we do need to quickly touch on items to build on him. I think cooldown reduction
Okay.
is huge.
Athenes.
Early
Yeah.
Athenes.
Yeah,
I build him the same way I build Ziggs. Chalice to Athenes. Try to get a Rabadon's in between. I like it shows the Morellonomicon in his recommended build. And I do, like Dom had brought up many times, Morellonomicon is a phenomenal item. It's great when they have
it's
heals and they have
frighteningly
regen.
gold efficient, if I recall
And
correctly.
exactly, its gold efficiency is amazing, but it's hard. I prioritize Void Staff usually, Rabadons and Void Staff over that, and then get it more in the later game. And it depends on the team comp. But core items, I would see the Chalice definitely into the Athenes, and then the
I might
Void
consider
Staff.
Chalice into Source Shoes if you can get those at like 6 or 7, because
So-
for the extra magic penetration, because of how much damage he's already doing.
Oh, yeah. I never rush Athenes. I usually get Chalice, Source
Okay.
Shoes, so I can move, especially on him, because I think he has 335 move speed,
Sure.
non-modified. That's
I
pathetic.
just want to make
but-
sure people realize that Source Shoes are there, because Dom has brought this up a long time ago to me, and it's always talking.
Yeah.
People don't rush tier 2 shoes when they need to. Like mid lane, those tier 2 shoes go through runes and masteries like butter, and they should be
Right.
picked up sooner than a lot of people are picking them up.
That's a good point. So, sometimes I catch myself, like it depends how
340
long.
movement speed. Sorry, 340
340
movement speed.
Okay, yeah, he's pretty slow. Pretty damn slow.
I'm used to 325. 325, 330. So
Oh, yeah?
340. Hey, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, I
Yeah,
run a
well,
shit ton of
they changed
movement
it.
speed quint and that type of thing.
Yeah. So, but you mentioned Cat. I just want to touch on this. Cat, if she comes in to ult you, even if you can't predict or anything, she jumps right in on you, hit that barrier, and ult her right back. She's not moving because she's ulting. And if she moves, she breaks her ult damage, and then then she can kind of juke
And you
if she's
can
right on
still
top of you.
move.
But I think Vel'koz with barrier, his damage he does is going to come out faster than Katarina's damage if you're similarly built and fed.
You'd be
I kind of
surprised.
want to see that someday. I kind of want to see that. Like,
I want to
just
see that face off. The two
Yeah.
coming together and just the
Who dies
laser
first?
into the blades.
I played into it once. I played one game with Vel'koz. It's all I got to play this weekend, and I'll say that I didn't get wrecked by Katarina. I actually walked out of lane ahead, but the damage she put down was quicker than I could get her out of her E. But I am not a good Vel'koz by any sense of the imagination, so take my play with a grain of salt.
Well, he's new. Practice with him.
So
Right.
He's different.
either-
He's got a different feel.
I'm in either situation here, you're going to end up with 10% CDR, which we've all agreed is needed on him. Are there situations where you would actually want to get the Fiendish Codex for Athene's first, like before the Chalice? Because the consensus is his mana costs really aren't that bad. Do you need the regen quickly, or would the extra damage actually serve you better?
I like the
I'm
MR
genuinely
on the
curious.
Chalice early.
Okay.
When
So
I'm facing an AP mid. I might be able to do the Fiendish Codex if it's a Zed or some kind of AD mid I'm facing, but if I'm facing an AP mid,
But even
he's
then, I would
very
go with
squishy.
Right, I mean, against an AD, you're
So-
probably going to get the arm guard.
Right.
Oh yeah, exactly.
You're kind of stuck with what you're going to build early and mid. If you're going against an AD but not taking a lot of damage, it's tier. Otherwise, it's arm guard, and then AP, it's Chalice into whatever. I think you're going to take Chalice no matter what, unless you're getting fed the first blue. But usually the way the game is going right now, you're not getting fed the first blue as the mid, because the jungler is doing something. And
Gonna take it.
I only brought it up because the general consensus is like his mana costs aren't that bad. It doesn't seem like you're running out of everything, out of mana or anything. And so like, I wondered if he's this weird exception to the rule where you don't need to rush that Chalice, because
I don't think you're wrong. That I think he could get away with getting that Fiendish early, but you have to. I think you need to be very good at Vel'koz and understand the limitations of his damage.
I guess the other side is that if you have the Chalice, then you can really just go nuts on the lane and keep them push their tower, prevent them from roaming, that type of shit.
Right.
Hey, answered my own question.
There we go. See, we can just talk through it. That's why we're here now. We can help you get to the right trade. So we've talked about Vel'koz here for a good chunk of time. Let's kind of move into some PBE discussion. We were talking Lich Bane a little bit earlier, and that is being changed in the PBE, or tentatively changed. I need to put a big disclaimer of this, like Moobie does and all this stuff. Everything we're talking about could 100% change, so we're going to try to talk theory rather than numbers.
Yep. We're not going to get into the specific match, just the basic idea behind these PBE adjustments from what we can read into it,
Right.
based on Riot's reasoning.
So we'll start with Lich Bane, and then we'll move into Feral Flare, which is going to be the upgrade for the Wriggles Lantern, eventually. Or, the tentative upgrade. So Lich Bane. In theory. Right now, Lich Bane is being used to add a chunk to your burst. It's not used as... They want Sheen or Lich Bane to be an intertwining... during your rotation. They want you to cast a spell.
All the
use
Sheen
it.
items.
Yeah. They want it to be used as a proc, and they want you to hold your cooldowns, and so you're intertwining it. Kind of like you see a Karthus drop a Q, throw an auto attack. They want that same thing to happen with Sheen. You drop a Q, you throw your auto attack. Now you wait, drop a Q, throw your... that type of thing. But it's being used right now because it adds so much damage, because it's adding 75% or 50% of your ability power. No, sorry,
No, it's
75% of your ability power in the next attack, and that's quite a lot of damage. So
Plus 50 flat damage.
yeah, exactly. So what they're doing now, instead of what they have been doing, and this was a Reddit, on Reddit, somebody had posted about it, and certainly came in and said, this is why we're changing it, because we've been trying to band-aid the issue by changing the champions, but at some point you have to look at the root of the cause, and that's Lich Bane. So, as you see...
Deathfire Grasp did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely at the end of Season 2. And even, it seemed like early on in Season 3, I felt like that was the case, but I might be wrong.
Well, they changed Deathfire Grasps instead of changing the champions.
Yeah, well, they had to, because that's the right decision there.
Right. So
It looks like it's a slight, 50 flat yeah, it's a hybrid champions. Wouldn't want to pick this up over the Trinity Force now, that's for sure, seeing as there's no attack damage increase.
right, they changed it
the
from a 50
75%.
on the PBE. As we're talking about this, they're changing it so it has its percentage of everything. It's percentage of AD and its percentage of ability power. Before it was flat attack damage and a percentage.
Right,
So it was
50
flat-
damage.
it was
Oh,
flat
is it
damage.
changed again?
It's
So
changed
50
to
flat.
75% of your basic attack damage, and that's key because you don't. That doesn't.
From what it was, okay. So
Right,
it's
and that
better.
doesn't account for, if you
For
buy
items.
a Gunblade, for example, it doesn't matter. It doesn't care about that attack damage. It's just whatever your base is. So
Your
someone
base.
like Diana actually gets hit pretty hard by this because her base AD, for a melee champion, her base AD is not that impressive. And so 75% of her basic attack damage and then 50% of her ability power. For someone that has to kind of build hybrid tanky, like on the tankier side of AP things, she's probably not going to get as much damage as she used to.
But with
from Lich Bane.
how they're talking about changing Lich Bane and wanting it to be intertwined between abilities that are quick castable or on low cooldown, Diana doesn't really fall into the Lich Bane category anymore because none of her abilities, you cast all her abilities in succession. It's QR, you're back in to WER again, and that's your end of your combo. You might get 2 Lich Bane procs off depending.
Yeah.
But before that was all she needed.
Right.
I preferred building tankier in lieu of that on her, but
I mean, Diana's kind of a mess right now because they don't like how she's this weird assassin tank. So she's really not a good example. I just picked her because I knew her base AD was actually pretty low. That's why I picked her.
And they got minor buffs, so.
Right, and the other thing is that the champions who've been getting nerfed because of Lich Bane are going to start seeing attention. Immediately coming to mind are Twisted Fate, Fizz, and Diana. They all have received slight buffs to their ability power ratios. There might be others who were nerfed because of that, that we see in the future. There was some talk about Akali, but she's not a prime user of Lich Bane, so they don't entirely know if we're not sure if that's going to affect her or not. But the reality is that the item was Kale. Look at what Kale was able to do to people just because of Lich Bane, and there's no way that champion should be able to be that murdersome.
Now, with this Lich Bane change and talking about how it's been intertwined, does this seem like Evelynn might go back toward an AP? Rather, right now, Evelynn's being built as an AD early because AD is going to do quite a bit more damage to the jungle champions. Could we see her going into Lich Bane at any point? Because she is spamming that Q, and now she's going to be getting more points out than anybody else.
How's her base attack damage ratio?
I'm looking that up right now. I don't know offhand.
Because if it's okay, then yeah. That might be better.
It looks like it's terrible. It's 48. And that is definitely in the lower on the lower side of things.
Plus, it scales with level.
Yeah, I'll look at the scaling. The scaling is 3.5 per level, which is also probably not great.
So she's not actually doing that much damage.
In melee.
With melee, right?
So it nerfs her damage if you build it than it is in live right now. So.
Well, we were talking about this.
I mean, she's right in the middle of things as far as or no, actually, she's up towards the top as far as the scaling itself goes, or the growth goes.
Of the attack damage?
Oh, yeah, she's in the top,
What did you say it was at?
48 to start.
It's 48 to start, but then it's 3.5 per level. I mean, that puts her right by Nasus.
Yeah, she gets a bonus 63.
Cho'Gath and Skarner are at the high end with 4.2 per level, just to give people perspective. Those two have the highest growth.
63 at 18.
Yeah, bonus 63 at 18. From 48.
Chi-Chi's going to be running Lich Bane Skarner.
So she's doing 75. She's doing basically 75 AD damage plus 50% of her ability power.
Right.
She's doing 75 plus 50%. Right now, it was doing 50. So she's actually going to be doing more at 18 than if it was before attack damage.
Okay, so it'll be better for her.
It'll be doing more attack damage,
live.
less ability power, though. You have to, there's a trade-off there.
20, yeah, but
she gets a lot out of
movement.
movement.
More AD, right?
The movement speed might actually help her really land a lot of those extra auto attacks, and you're running from Eve if she's chasing you.
Again, it's just speculative because I was thinking about how quickly she spams it and how quickly it'll come back up. So,
but I guess if that's really the case, wouldn't you just get a Triforce?
Yeah, Triforce
and just spam away.
Lunar King, right? Well, you never know. Maybe the extra burst off the she runs out of the bush, drops her R. She's got that extra burst right off the fact, and move speed allow him to stick to it to get more Qs off while she's super tanky. But that said, let's kind of talk about how Fizz, Diana. We've talked about Diana a little bit. Twisted Fate. I'm not sure what they're gonna do to him, but they are talking about buffing Fizz. I think his W on PBE right now is getting a slight buff. I'm not going to say numbers, but they're buffing the W.
AP ratios, I think.
Yeah. To give that extra oomph that he's losing because it's such a
Give me a second, I'll find it. It's not. I mean, it's just a little.
We don't want to talk about specific numbers, but basically what it is improving.
0.1 difference.
I'm breaking my rule because I told Dom I didn't want to talk about these, but then we have all three listed, so I want to make sure that those numbers are
You want to touch on it? I can see that. Well, if you got the money, I would prioritize.
Dom, already have it up.
Force over Lich Bane anyway.
Yeah, like you said, it's 0.1, and then
Eve
on
and Diana.
Yeah.
It's 0.1 on Fizz's W, and then for Twisted Fate, it's 0.1 on Stack Deck passive.
That they're improving.
So it's slight.
Yeah, it's slight. They will probably start to touch these
Maybe it's
champions
not
in
to
other
bring him
ways,
in.
though.
Right.
Well, I was always
that
curious
being
why
said-
Twisted Fate fell out of favor so much. He was used to be a ban.
Because it's too damn hard to get down to the lane and have your gold card still up.
And you can't zone as effectively by keeping your card up forever like you used to be able to.
Like the card lasts 4 seconds now, I think.
You can
still last 10.
You can still get your ult off and do it if you have the timing down pat, but yeah, it is harder.
4 seconds plus the cast time, you have like 1.5 seconds by the time you make it down there to get your card off. So you got to
make sure you place it
specific position.
Like Pantheon, you got to place your damn ult in the right spot and time it properly. So
but even then, there's still some leeway with Pantheon because the circle's so big, people can run. They have to run through it or run away from it, and you still have time to make up for a mistake. And with Twisted Fate, you can't make a mistake when you land where you land your ultimate at. You have to understand
for the instant stun, but even if you don't,
that's all it was used for though. When he came down to gank, you just teleport right behind him and boom, instant stun. Now people are dead. It's kind of like then
now you can teleport somewhere and throw out your wild cards and then try to prep a gold card right then and there while you're running in. And just like the Pantheon, if they flash, they're gone. If not, you can still get them.
You can, but you can't do it as easily as you could. Therefore, he's not as
effective as he used to be.
People are bitter. They're like, he's harder now. But I think he's effective with his map presence. I want to see him played more. I'm not very good at Twisted Fate. I don't have that.
I don't feel like Twisted Fate
coordination for him down.
Good enough anymore. He doesn't bring enough of that map presence because you have to be so precise.
He got harder to play, so that immediately takes away some of a lot of his power got taken away. I mean, again,
and they also changed his passive, so loaded dice now gives him more gold rather than the team more gold. And as you start removing,
but that was broken as shit. That needed to be taken out.
Sure, I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying it was right.
Especially with the new gold items.
Yeah,
right.
But so we talked about Lich Bane here a little bit. We're gonna see how these changes keep coming in. I think we'll come back and touch on this as we get more numbers for the champions, and we'll start referencing. This was changed because Lich Bane got changed, kind of like the.
And it could change tomorrow. Maybe they'll tweak something else on it, so we'll have something else to possibly discuss.
But what I'm really interested in is the Feral Flare, which is what Wriggle Lantern is set to.
It looks exciting.
Right. So right now you have Wriggle's Lantern. You have an extra ward, so you don't have to buy one, but it doesn't bring anything to AD champions like the other spirit items do, because the passive only works on minions, while the other passives either grant you defense or grant you extra damage on champions, yada yada. So now they're changing it to Feral Flare, or having an upgrade into. So it's still going to keep the 20 attack damage, 35% attack speed, but it's getting a unique passive, and this is really interesting. It's called Maim. Basic attacks deal 100 magic damage and heal 12 on hit. Now it gains that 100 magic damage gains +3 per kill or assist on every large monster. So it continues to stack.
No. That's champion kill or champion assist.
Large monster. Okay.
Or kill on a large monster.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
That's a big difference.
That is a big difference. So every time you kill a large monster or a champion, you get +3. And it doesn't look like there is no wording on the PB right now where it says it stops at a cap. Like, it looks like it continually goes forever and ever and ever.
So Nasus back in the jungle farming the whole game through.
Right. Well, and then the big
See
thing
it
is
30
that
minutes, guys.
the other big thing is that this passive does 33% damage against champions. So this on-hit passive, which on Wriggles only applies to to monsters in the jungle, like this on-hit now is going to start applying to minions in lane, and champions. Like, that's extra damage that's being dealt to champions, and it's what,
ever
11
increasing.
That's what's surprising me about it.
It's 33 damage against champions at the start. I mean, that's
33%.
You can't take away from the heal.
Well, it's a bonus 33 since it starts at 100.
You can't take away from this heal either, because I could see this getting stacked to the point, especially on someone like Nasus.
Exactly.
The jungle when
it's like giving you a Warwick heal, a Warwick passive kind of.
Yes,
at 3 stacks all the time.
Immediately Nasus and Lee Sin come to mind for this item.
Udyr comes to mind for me.
I could see it on Udyr too.
I mean, with attack
Udyr?
speed on it, though.
Either
I don't know.
You run attack speed with Phoenix, so you can get more fire off. But I mean, you could run it either way. I don't know, based on timing, because it's going to take 12 to 15 minutes to get your Wriggles anyway, and then it's going to take another 25.
No, it actually starts to count the moment you have Madreds.
Oh,
Really?
Once you have Madreds, that's
I
when
didn't
it
know that.
starts to
So
count
that's-
the.
Okay,
Why
that
is this in the
changes-
document?
That changes
Because that was
everything.
something I saw later on, and I forgot to add it earlier today. I'm sorry.
So that's a change to Madred's.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
It starts to count for 25 once you have Madreds.
So you get Madreds, and then you just buy Wriggles, and it immediately turns into a Feral Flare. If you get to
Presumably,
25
like,
monsters, that's
I don't know how
nuts.
long. I don't know how long it takes to kill how long it takes to kill 25 large monsters. Like in theory, that sounds quick, but they're on respawn timer, so it's gated in
Yeah.
that regard.
Right. Yeah. It's even if you're ahead, you're not gonna...
What it sounds like is that this is like a real counter jungler's item. Like
It
based
could
on
be.
that, like that's the idea. Is now if you're not going to be putting pressure on the lanes and everything, you're going to
Hold
get
on.
you're going to get this item because you're going to fuck with the enemy jungler at every opportunity that you have because you get bonuses from taking their large. Like you now benefit more just by taking their large minions.
I mean, I could also see it pulling out Master Yi and Tryndamere jungle all over again, and
Yeah.
as soon as this comes out, there's going to be.
Here's-
I am predicting
I mean,
there's
that
going to
could
be a
get changed,
big
but-
influx.
It's not with Madred's razors, by the way. It's Hunter's machete and Madred's razors count towards
Really?
the transformation.
Jeez,
So you
starting
get
with the
5
machete.
on 1 clear. So, yeah, I'm looking at here on Surrender at 20. Feral Flare transformation tooltip cleaned up to clarify. Monsters killed with Hunter's machete and Madred's razors count towards the transformation.
This is going to be one of those things that people getting it are just going to be like, "Hey guys, I'll see you at 6. I'm just going to farm until then, so they can immediately rush this out
Well,
and then start doing stuff."
I don't
out.
have a problem with that.
It counts towards the transformation, but does it add to the stats on main?
No,
Does it-
no, not until. I don't think so
Okay,
until you
not
get the
till
Feral
you-
Flare.
Darn it,
Medios
okay.
is going to love this
That-
item.
Yeah, that's right up his alley.
Oh, we
Yeah,
go
yes.
back to the herbivore version of junglers. This item could actually bring junglers
Herbivore,
back to
yep.
herbivores, and we could see more hyper carries at the top lane now because really,
I don't know.
you look at somebody, let's say like Malachi, who is kind of starved for damage. This could be a potential item you could buy on him instead of Spirit of the Ancient Golem or Spirit of the Spectral Wraith.
on
assuming that-
champions that don't need that what's it called from the Spirit Stone and those items that allow
Mana?
you to restore your mana and your
or if
health.
you can take all the blues.
So yeah, exactly.
Mordecai
But
just
it's a
comes
large
back.
monster.
Maokai
it's fine
doesn't
blue
need the
anyway.
health,
That
but he does need the mana.
Well, no, I understand that. With Spirit of the Spectral Wraith, it's definitely huge on him, and he needs that. But at the same time, if you are spending all of your time just ganking lanes instead of farming, this could also work for you. This is why I think it works really well on Lee Sin, because Lee Sin can do either or. Lee Sin can counter jungle really well, Lee Sin can gank really well, or Lee Sin can farm till 6 and then come and start
Yep.
ganking.
Or you can do all
Yeah,
of
I
that.
mean, it's, I guess
Listen right there. He dropped the
kind
word
of
over
forgotten
the
that champion kill assist part and everything. Like it does incentivize ganking just as much as it does counter jungling.
Well, it just makes both paths viable. The other thing with this, though, is I'm just happy Riot realized they had an issue with Wriggles' Lantern being effectively useless for a long time, and they've actually come to address it.
It's funny the number of times Red Post came up that said something to the effect of, "Yeah, there's supposed to be an upgrade for Wriggles. We don't know what happened to it. We'll get back to you on that." So
Work in progress.
But regardless, I'm going to ban Lee Sin every time I get into a game. So
yeah, fuck. I mean, he's gonna skyrocket up because of this thing.
I really like the fact that it
Regardless,
gives
I ban him.
a free lantern or a free ward, because now
Well,
there's a
Is it-
PBE change too on trinkets. The ward timer, early ward timer, is being reduced to, I think it can drop earlier now, if I remember correctly.
No, out of the gate, it's actually longer.
Oh,
right.
It's
Yeah,
up
they
to,
can't be
it's
used
up
for
to
the first
120
Up-
seconds.
Exactly. Up from 90, it's up to 120. And selling a trinket disables its use for 120 seconds, down from 180. So selling it and buying another one is a little bit shorter, so it's quicker there. But
That's
initially,
actually nice because I do that
it's
a
long.
lot.
Right. Well,
Me
Ryan,
too.
Do that a lot.
People complaining about stale
too.
level ones, and now
Totem
they're
to
making it
sweeper.
so totems come out later.
Totem to,
That-
to sweeper, and then scrying orb if it gets really late.
That also might affect the way bot lane plays out. Like I think that might be what kills Doran's shield start.
Oh, not being able to
Because
drop the
not
early
not
ward.
having the vision. I mean, like that's the reason why I don't buy it is because I like having the extra vision and everything. But now when you go for the first 2 minutes of the game without vision, like that's gonna have a huge impact on things. Because
Well,
you can lose your lane right then and there.
Right there, yep.
Without the vision, like junglers are gonna come, like they're gonna do red,
Well, even if you don't have, if you can't put any control into their bush too, and they can just use that to disengage and whatnot, that's huge in itself. You can just poke and run away.
I don't want to. I don't have any need. Okay, and as a top laner, speaking as a top laner, I have no need for my ward for the first 3 minutes of the game. Like, or by the time the ward refresh, I would drop it early. Yeah, I would drop it.
I need all of the wards
jungle.
in the first 3 minutes of the game
because I know when the enemy jungler is going to come up there, and that's about 305, 310. If he is going to come up there and hasn't started the buff nearest to me, so about 305,
right,
310.
if you had that route.
Right, so I can go ahead and drop my ward in their jungle somewhere or in the river or whatever early and have it. So like this change doesn't do. I mean, it makes top lane a little. It doesn't affect top lane, but that's one less lord I can put out on the map and one more thing in my inventory I just forget about early.
But I mean, so the other side is actually that this change makes mid and bot lane easier to gank right away at the start of the game.
Sure.
So it could affect top lane in that regard, meaning you will not see a jungler right off the bat.
Okay.
But it's a high risk.
It could help you in that respect. Is all I'm saying. Like it could. Like I think mid lane gets affected by this more than anybody else because bot lane.
Mid lane got all
support's
warded
gonna
up,
adjust,
top
but yeah,
and jungle and mid could all put their
mid
wards
lane's
everywhere.
not going to be warded up like it was used to.
People are going to play support more like Dom plays support. Buy a ward and throw it real early, which is nice. So
me.
I embrace this change. I like it. I don't mind that
It'll be
extra
interesting.
amount.
I don't know.
I don't like it
There's
because
so much emphasis on winning the.
I like it because I sell my totem and change it out, and I
don't
would
like it
less time on
level
there,
1 is stale, super stale right now. I miss season 3 early invades. I miss being able to walk
Invades
through the
every
jungle
game.
and drop wards and
So why don't you like this change to the trinket then?
because you can't do it. I mean, you can do it less than you could do it before. Right now, level 1 is stale. All we see in the LCS
Indeed.
in most games is everybody just stands around and watches their buff, just on the off chance that somebody comes and invades.
Except EG.
Except for EG. Yeah, I didn't see that.
They always do shit. They always.
Well, it depends on your champ pool, and their champ pool.
Let's there's always lots of what ifs. This could happen, yada yada. But I would say the majority of the games are very stale openers, and I want more action right off the bat. I want people to have more wards. I want people to come stepping in with wards and putting themselves out to invade, and they want there to be a reason people want to take the early stuff. But with the change to the amount of first blood gold and the change to the wards, there's no incentive for people to invade.
I was going to say, I think the first
point with
blood
the first
gold
blood
has
gold,
a bigger part of that than the early wards, but
Yeah, if First Blood Gold was higher, you would still see more invades like that.
Right.
And they would probably pick comps specifically around invading, but because it's like high risk, medium reward,
Sure.
it's no longer worth it. Like if it was high
Right.
risk, high reward, then fine, totally go for it. But
Like rushing
when-
that bot blue side tribush when you're red for that quick, easy gank when their support or ADC steps in there. You don't see that as much anymore, but it's pretty much.
I mean, it's going to change the
time.
early game. I don't know. It changes the early game no matter how you look at it. It's 30
Early-
seconds a long time.
Early game is that extra 30 seconds, which I agree can change stuff, but I don't see people starting red and coming bot right away.
Like the first 5 minutes of the game is among the most stressful periods of the game for me. So, and this only makes it worse.
Not top lane. It's after 5 minutes when it goes stressful in top lane. Especially when you
Mubi
get
has an
a
interesting
kill.
interesting comment here in the chat. We interviewed several of the European and Korean teams in the competitive level, and general consensus among them was that a 2-minute trinket timer would enhance early game strategy and lead to a better invasion phase
Interesting.
because there's less vision to counter the invasion
Sure.
that early. So
now
I can see that.
I can see that. I kind of liked it when people went to ward, and then there's people waiting for them to ward, and they died.
Yeah, all the time.
But I mean, that was one of my favorite parts. But
Pretty sure Saint Vicious got caught doing that a whole bunch of times.
That poor guy.
Have you
I see
seen
that
him-
happen and it sucks and I'm like, oh, I have so had those games or you just like you're trying to do your job and you
like-
you get murdered for doing it and then your team thinks you're feeding or they're like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm trying to get his vision and it didn't work.
and nobody's helping me.
You don't know what to say because you were trying to do your job. You failed at doing your job, so
You just be like Wrecker and go, I was just doing my job. I was just boarding. Well, you were in the wrong place, you son of a
yeah,
bitch.
I know, It happens sometimes. It's tough.
Sorry for trying to help, guys.
But thanks for throwing that out there, Mubi. We really do appreciate the insight.
Yeah, that's Riot's take on it, and based on their interviews with the European Korean team. So it's actually good real life input there to assist in our speculation and to totally just knock Pone's theory down.
No,
into the
it
dirt.
doesn't knock my theory down. I get what they're saying because there is a risk to go in, but the reward of 180 gold or whatever it is,
Oh, yeah.
get the first blood.
The first blood.
The only way I see it worth is if you can secure a buff and an extra camp, maybe, or get a kill, secure a buff,
And
an
not
extra
lose
camp,
yours
and
in
get
the
out.
process.
Right. Like we have seen invades, but Coast versus TSM spent forever around that red
really
buff.
liked that strategy out of TSM, and it was really just a case where Bjergsen didn't rotate the way he needed to, like because Shifter.
He couldn't rotate though, right? Because
No, he could have. He let Shifter got a way big jump start on him, and that's what got Odd One caught. And that was they had a really good strategy for dealing with Coast because Nintendo is more often than not the guy that gets them there. Well, lately it's been Zion and Shifter. But at that point, it had been Nintendo. I liked TSM strategy, and they just didn't execute it on it the way they needed to. And I was going to say that TSM tends to be the only one that's really thinking outside the box as far as those early game strats go. North America, they're really, really gun-shy about doing invades, but I don't think that's the case in Korea and Europe. I think they'd be more just my sense upon the regions is they really would. They already doing stuff, and they would be more inclined to do it. They're going to be more inclined to do it. They made that clear with Movie's info. Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait until as the change. Again, this is all speculative,
PvE.
yada yada,
Yep.
PvE stuff. So we'll see how the changes they go through. We'll talk about it. We'll probably touch on it again a couple weeks after it goes out. Much like I've said with new champions, we're gonna wait until the champion's out. We've actually had time to play with them before we talk about them. So with that said, let's get into one or two listener questions before we round up this podcast, since
Sounds
we
good
haven't
to me.
gotten them in a couple weeks. And if you guys do have a listener question, please email us, feedback@trinityforcepodcast.com. We really enjoy your feedback. And I do want to say that I have a note about listener questions. And that's when we're talking about this, throughout the entire podcast and everything, when we say a champion is really strong right now, and this is specifically talking Olaf last week, that doesn't exactly mean the champion can't be camped or countered. It's just more than likely it's a case where the champion has been overlooked as an option against the current popular champions, and his or her or its counters are also heavily played in the top lane of the game itself. So I want people to make sure that's clear. We've had a number of emails come in recently whenever we talked about a champion. Well, you could play this against him, or this champion could totally shut him down, and you're not wrong, but that champion
That's
isn't
not
played
typically
for
what
that
you're
reason.
seeing, right?
Right. So,
Yeah, I mean,
and that's good, and they're good points. I like reading those and just seeing the things. Listeners, viewers, you're thinking about champions and you're trying them out and how they can counter the more powerful champions, especially if you can hit the real OP meta champions, Renekton, for example, Gragas, etc. If you can find champions that counter them, I'd love to read your input on that and try it out myself, because I'm always looking to. Reggie would hate me because I prefer to innovate rather than go with the meta.
You're always looking for a stick to put in somebody else's spokes.
Exactly.
yeah, no. So definitely keep running
those
those
coming.
changes and everything. But just realize when we say something is strong, or if we ever give our opinion, it's just based on the meta and the way the game is being played right now.
Yeah, it's not doctrine. It's these champs are being played right now. This guy is being overlooked for some reason, but totally
He
works.
totally works.
Right. So Adam Kidd wrote in and he said, "How do you guys deal with hitting a skill progression wall in respective roles?"
For me, it whenever I feel like I'm starting to hit a wall, I end up having to start watching pro streams, and especially paying really diligent attention to what's going on for my role in LCS games to see the little things that they're doing that I'm not doing and that I could start to work on. And until I have those specific things in my face explaining this is where the next level is, the next step that you need to take, that I don't have anywhere else to go. I'm totally lost. So for me specifically, but there have definitely been games where I just had completely written off certain champions until I saw a pro level player using that champion, and then just showing me the champion's power, and then kind of opened up a new way to approach either the champion or the game or whatever it was. But for me specifically, it was a case where I had to sit down and look at what I needed to do needing to do next because I wasn't going to figure it out without outside resources.
When I hit a wall, see, when I switched over to top lane, that's when I really started to learn this game inside and out, because I was playing AD carry for a while and I had people telling me how to play. I was watching streams and I was getting better, but the role never clicked with me, much like top lane did. So I started playing, and as I got better at top lane, I also realized I was getting better at the game because I started paying attention to matchups. I think that's when I really started to get better at that specific lane. As soon as I understand how to play against Renekton, I started to understand how to play against Irelia, and paying attention to what the champion's abilities do, memorizing abilities, memorizing skill progression, memorizing item progression, and realizing what the enemy's going to come back to lane with and how that's going to affect me. Like if I'm playing, let's say I'm playing Olaf into Nasus. If that Nasus comes back without building extra life and he builds offense early, I know that I'm going to put out more than he is, and I'm going to
run into that asshole and beat the brakes off.
But you have to start looking. Like, that's one of those things. Like, people don't look at items that are being built or how many potions the person came to lane with. If that guy comes to lane with 5 potions, no, you're gonna have to spend extra time to push him out, and or know that he's going to sit up there for a while, and the jungler has more. As the game goes on, there's more of a chance for the jungler to come and stop you.
With the potions thing, I'd say a good example of that for anybody who remembers is like Volley Bears going top or Riven's going top and starting a red pot and baiting fights out and like almost losing and then just turning around, ignite, pop the red pot and kill you. And it's little things like that in matchups that will make or break winning and losing lanes.
Yeah, and skill progression in your lane. Sorry, I was just going to touch on this question a little bit. I'm curious as to where this question is going. The wall in skill progression, what does this mean? Like, you get to a point where you're climbing through the ranks and all of a sudden you're just not performing as well as you were in the lower ranks? Is that what we're trying to address right here?
I guess to me it's a case where you hit a point where you don't, like, you play a game and you walk away and you don't feel like you really are better for it. Or like you start playing a lot of games and you walk away and you don't feel like you are learning anything more about your role. But if you're, silver, gold, anywhere in there, unless you're challenger, realistically, you should still be able to learn more. Right. Yeah, you still have more to learn about your role. But everybody has that wall where it's like no matter how many times they throw themselves at it, they just don't feel like they're making any progress.
Well, that wall could also be, and I think that for us on this podcast, a lot of it, for every single one of us, it's we talk twice a week, plus a couple of us talk all day, and being able to continually talk about the game has done more than actually playing the game for me. Like, I've gotten better just being able to sit down here and analyze and listen to other people. So the T-Force chat and game is a great place for that. Hey, I just got done with this matchup as Irelia versus Renekton. He dumpstered me early. This is what happened. What can I do to fix this? And people are going to put their input in. And, you can take that input and you can apply your knowledge to it and your experience to it to decide what is best for you in that matchup.
I'd also even say if you've kind of hit a rut, go play another position for a few days and then go back to it. That always seems to help me just because I can come back into the role with kind of a fresh head and I guess absorb. I can definitely tell the little things I'm doing a little more clearly instead of something that I'm just so habitually used to doing this every game. I kind of get into a pattern of making the same mistakes. But if I go to do something else and I come back to it, I'm like, why the hell did I just do that?
Get a fresh perspective. Yeah, I can see that.
Someone said, play Vi, break through the wall.
There you go. Or doesn't Sejuani break through most of the walls?
Yeah, but doesn't Sejuani say, or doesn't Vi have a quote about a wall?
No, but like, I think Sejuani literally breaks through Jarvan's wall. Like, doesn't go through, like, breaks it.
Oh, really?
Or Anivia's wall. The old Sejuani did. Like, literally broke through Anivia's wall.
I've never seen this particle.
Like a
ever.
lady.
Ooh, I gotta mess with that.
I've never seen
like, I don't know if that's the case with Sejuani after her visual update and like minor rework, but old Sejuani did like literally break through certain walls.
I do need to point out, Josh just brought up a really good point in chat, and that's take a break from the game.
Yeah.
If you guys listened to me when I was trying to hit plat, when I took a break from the game for, a couple days and came back and started playing, that's when I hit platinum. When I stopped putting the pressure on me to try and get better and try to get there, I learned more because I just came in and I was open-minded.
If I lose 2 games in a row, I stop playing.
Sure.
I know that it's like my mood is not going to get better from there. I'm not going to go in with like even a decent attitude about how things are going to go. And I'm just going to be frustrated. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to going to bathe because, oh my God, it's 4 PM and what have I been doing with my life? Like any of these things. Or, oh, hey, shit, I played 2 games. I should maybe get back to work.
I feel so dirty off that loss.
But just take a break and go do something. Like, frankly, exercise is a really good way to like just get over a lot of those losing games blues. But that's me, endorphins go. Those are they're pretty good.
I think that's a good point. Plus,
But that's me.
viewers, listeners, exercise. Get off those
do
chairs.
whatever the fuck you want.
Why do you
man.
think I look so damn good? Because that's all I do every day.
If you don't want to
get
exercise,
outta
don't
here.
exercise. I'm not telling you.
Why do you think my
I
ego is
run
so
'cause
big?
I like
Because I
running.
work it out. You like that workout? That's like an old lady workout. Doing the running man.
Nice. With those tiny little weights.
Yeah. Excuse me,
Well
I'm
done.
doing it with 35-pound weights to Claude.
I want to also mention that if you notice that you are hitting a wall with let's say you're mid and the enemy mid is you've reached a level, let's say higher tier gold or getting into plat, and they're just outperforming you every single time. Take a break, analyze the games if you can. See, okay, try to play another game and take a look at it. What are they doing that I'm not doing? Oh, they're roaming. I'm calling out my aides, but my lanes are getting killed. Well, maybe you want to follow them when they roam and see how that works, or initiate a roam yourself when you see an opportunity. And then just trying to learn these little things can help. And I know, Chi-Chi, you laughed because you expected me to go into a pun there for a second, or a joke.
Good old
I'm sorry to disappoint, but I actually had a real point for this listener, so I'll come up with the one a little bit later. Having something to do with renewable energy and thresh and solar powered, something like that.
All right, guys, I think that's it for
You
episode
just
number
broke that out
140.
for the hell of it. You didn't need to go.
He didn't even try. He doesn't even try
You've been sitting
anymore.
on that one for a long time, and you haven't found a good time to use
No,
it.
this is a request
Look
from
at
a
the
fan.
face.
Kate Masters' brother came up with it. I really liked it, so I figured I'd share it with you guys.
But you have been sitting on it.
Solar powered? The husky bad
I
pun
caught
dog.
it. I caught it.
I should have never shown you that dog.
Oh, I love that dog.
All right, guys, that was episode number 140 of the Trinity Force podcast. Please stick around, as there's going to be another podcast on Wednesday. I almost said something else that would not end this show. So thanks, guys, for listening, and we will see you all next week.
Bye, guys.